being, will head to the bench.
You got to be ready to rebound right here. You got to box out.
Taylor Simpson has checked in for her first.
Alyssa Thomas couldn't get to Caitlin Clark, who was sitting on the bench in street clothes, so she took aim at Clark's best friend instead, delivering an elbow to Lexie Hull's face that sent her crashing to the floor. And while Hull was still down holding her nose, Thomas was caught on camera laughing about it. And even the Phoenix home crowd booed her after watching the replay on the Jumbotron. So we're going to break down exactly what happened moment by moment and show you how the Fever made her pay before the night was over as the Indiana Fever enforcers delivered instant karma to Alyssa Thomas, and we want to know what you think the WNBA should do about it, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. Lexie Hull hit the deck holding her face with blood already streaming from her nose, yet the whistle never blew and no foul was called, leaving Hull on the hardwood while the play continued around her as if nothing had happened. So let's examine.
Makes its way to Cunningham, and Hull cashes in on a three. Boston hits a three.
And how this truly unfolded when Hull went up to contest Thomas's shot near the basket and played straight-up defense, only for Thomas to lower the ball in her arms before bringing them back up for a shot and driving her elbow directly into Hull's face. And this was not a box-out gone wrong or two players tangled for position, because Hull had no reason to expect contact while playing honest defense. And that is precisely why this incident is so difficult to dismiss as merely a basketball play. Now watch the replay, because this is where it gets revealing, as frame by frame you can see Thomas's elbow is not down at her side or tucked in like she's winding up for a shot, but rather it is up, out, and aimed right at Hull's head, which is not an arm swinging through traffic but a deliberate strike, and the broadcast cameras captured every detail in a way the referees on the floor apparently missed. And here is the part that elevates this from a bad no call to something far worthwhile.
Alyssa Thomas laughs after nearly breaking Lexie Hull's nose.
Laughed, caught clearly on camera with no doubt about what her expression conveyed in that moment, because you do not smile after an accident, you smile when you know exactly what you did and you were not sorry about it. So Alyssa Thomas laughed after nearly breaking Lexie Hull's nose, and the officials watching live somehow missed all of this with no foul, no free throws, and no review, but everyone at home saw the slow motion replay. Saw the elbow, saw the laugh, and saw a player who got away with it in real time. And even though the tape made it obvious, the gap between what the refs called and what the cameras showed is exactly why fans are furious. And this is not the first time either, because on June 24 Thomas caught Caitlin Clark with a shot to the throat and a knee to the groin in the same game, a play that was later upgraded to a flagrant 2 after league review, with the same story of contact far worse than what was called live.
Streaking to the basket, and here's what hustle players are all about. You got 3 Phoenix players around Caitlin Clark, and yeah, it's good.
Caitlin to the ground, and ooh, that's a hand to the neck, and then Alyssa Thomas steps over her. See, that's the kind of stuff that can incite some future trouble.
Only corrected after the fact once someone actually reviewed the tape, so 2 different games and 2 different targets reveal the same pattern of Thomas doing damage, and the officials needing replay to catch up. Clark sat out this game resting her body and watching from the bench in street clothes, so Thomas could not get to her directly this time and instead went after the next closest thing, Clark's close friend on the roster, the player Clark trusts and plays alongside every night, so you do not have to guess why Hull became the target when the real target was not on the floor to hit. And before any of this happened, Stephanie White was already calling out the officiating in her pregame comments, pointing to a double standard in how these games are called against her team, and it turns out she was right before the ball even went up. And here is the payoff. Phoenix put the replay on their own Jumbotron in their own building for their own fans, and those fans booed, not Fever fans on the road, but Phoenix fans booing their own player, because even they could see what Thomas did was dirty. And when your home crowd turns on you like that, there is no spin left to put on it, and the Fever were not about to let that sit once the ball went back live. Down by 10 in the third quarter.
At least for the time being, will head to the bench.
You got to be ready to rebound right here. You got to box out.
Taylor
quarter, Phoenix was starting to pull away as if they had this one figured out, with Clark in street clothes on the bench and the coaching staff hoping the bench could find something with a clipboard's worth of confidence. And this was also the second night of a back-to-back, so Indiana's legs were tired from travel and playing minutes without their best player to lean on when things got hard. But then picture this, Phoenix hitting shots and Indiana chasing the game. While
Boston, Cunningham, Boston hits a three!
That's what you call a boomerang pass. Pass it right.
the deficit grew every time down the floor, and that is when the Fever flipped a switch and rattled off a 13-0 run that turned the entire third quarter inside out, with the defense tightening up first, forcing bad shots and getting stops that had not been there minutes earlier, and once the stops started coming, the offense found easy buckets in transition instead of grinding against a set defense, and that was the run that turned a potential blowout back into a game, with Phoenix never fully recovering the cushion they had. The fourth quarter.
Cutting Bonner lost the handle. Mitchell right on the money to Cunningham. So a little 6-0 response for Indiana, and that 10-point lead is down to 4 as the Fever are able to pick up the pace in a row.
Turned into exactly the kind of game that tests your heart, with every basket answered right back as Phoenix scored and Indiana scored, neither team able to build a lead worth feeling good about, and lead changes stacked up possession after possession while both benches stood for most of it because sitting down started to feel impossible, and Ty Harris became the engine nobody outside the building expected to matter this much, scoring 9 points in the fourth quarter alone. Drilling a three with 3 minutes left that handed Indiana the lead, then coming back to score again with 44 seconds on the clock to put them back in front after Phoenix answered. And Harris finished the night with 15 points and 5 assists, running the offense like she had been doing it all season instead of stepping into a bigger role because her team needed her to. Winning like this without Clark carries its own weight because this was a full Phoenix roster, healthy and rested, against an Indiana team missing its best scorer and playmaker, yet the Fever still found a way to grind it out, and that says everything about what this roster actually has when you strip away the headline name and just watch who was left on the floor competing, with Aaliyah Boston returning from missing the previous game and her presence changing the whole shape of the night as she.
Huge moments. There have been a couple of these here in the fourth.
Gotta keep your composure right here. Gotta execute.
Shot clock at 10. Harris is in a couple big shots tonight. Harris. 2 more! Couple tough whistles and a couple tougher shots.
That's how you handle adversity.
Finished with 21 points and 9 rebounds, hitting 3 of 5 from three-point range and showing off a jump shot that was not as much a part of her game last season, and with Boston in the lineup, Indiana had size and scoring inside again, something they lacked in the previous game, and it showed up in every possession where Phoenix had no answer for her in the post. Every possession down the stretch turned into a decision that could end the comeback right there, with a bad pass, a rushed shot, or a blown rotation on defense, any one of which could hand the game back to Phoenix with the clock running out, but Indiana did not blink, playing possession after possession like they had already decided how this game would end, and Kelsey Mitchell's layup with 1 seconds left put Indiana ahead for good, capping a stretch where neither team could pull away and turning every possession before it into a setup for that one shot, with Sophie Cunningham closing it out at the free throw line right after. But that is a story for its own moment because as wild as that fourth quarter got, the real fight all night long happened in the paint where Aaliyah Boston was busy making Alyssa Thomas look like she did not belong on the same floor.
Teams do, coming off of losses. Indiana Fever played last night against the Sparks and lost that one. Aaliyah not finding Cunningham, who will drive, kick out, they move it over to Aaliyah Boston, a much improved three-point shooter. Here's your combo, Boston and Mitchell. Boston and Alyssa Thomas, how about that matchup? Boston for the most in WNBA history.
So I should have been rooting for that to go out, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. She's getting some time. Right now in the third quarter, off the bench. This Boston gets a good...
Picture this, Aaliyah Boston catching the ball on the block, feeling Alyssa Thomas leaning on her, and just going to work as if Thomas was not even there. Once, twice, 3 times down the stretch, Boston backed her down in the post and Thomas had no answer for it, and this was not one lucky bucket but a pattern that repeated itself possession after possession, and by the 3rd or 4th time it happened, you could see Thomas start looking over at her bench like someone should help her out. Because Thomas is not some scrub defender but one of Phoenix's best two-way players, someone who guards the toughest matchup almost every night and usually holds her own. So when Boston shut her down in the post, that was not a small thing. It was Indiana's center taking away the one thing Thomas is supposed to be great at and doing it in front of a home crowd that came to watch Thomas dominate, not get dominated.
Ivernidis. Cunningham gives it to him.
The possessions themselves were simple and brutal, with Boston catching deep position on the block, feeling Thomas trying to push her out, and instead of backing down, she went straight up and over her for a clean finish at the rim with no fadeaways or tricky footwork needed, just straight strength and touch over and over until Thomas started fouling out of frustration instead of playing defense. And then Boston did something nobody expected from a post player matched up against someone Thomas's size. She stepped out to the three-point line, caught the ball, and shot it right in Thomas's face without a second of hesitation, and the shot went in clean, and for a second the whole building went quiet because that is not supposed to happen. Post players who just spent the whole game bullying you inside are not supposed to step back and hit threes over you too. Boston did not just make the shot and jog back, she celebrated right in front of Thomas, right in her face, letting her know exactly what just happened. And given that Thomas had elbowed Lexie Hull earlier in this same game and laughed about it, watching Boston get her moment right in Thomas's space hits different because it is not extra, it is earned. And everyone watching knew exactly why Boston was not holding back on the celebration, and by the final buzzer, Boston's stat line read 21 points and 9.
I just talked about her being our linebacker and our communicator defensively. More than happy to get her back for several reasons, and then Boston back this way from Thomas on that. Boston lets it fly, and the Fever's back on top.
Both teams for different reasons. You know, Phoenix 6 games under 500 is trying to.
Boston looking for position against Thomas. Boston finds it and finishes it. Shot clock still in play. Feeding Boston right away against Thomas. Leans in, turns the other way. Aaliyah Boston, cool, calm, and collected.
Rebounds, shooting well from deep while also guarding Thomas defensively for most of the night, which is a two-way effort most players do not turn in even when they are only doing one of those jobs, yet Boston did both against one of the best forwards in the league. Sophie Cunningham had her own job to finish, and once Boston set the tone, she stepped in with 9 points, and when the game was on the line in the final minute, she was the one at the free throw line knocking down the shots that sealed it, as Cunningham did not rattle in that moment but calmly buried free throw after free throw while Phoenix had no choice but to watch the clock run out, and after one of those makes, Cunningham turned to the crowd and did her pointing celebration again, the one. Fans have started waiting for every single time she hits a big shot, and here is the part that says everything about this night. Cunningham used to play for Phoenix and still lives there in the offseason, and this was Phoenix's own arena, yet the crowd cheered for her anyway while Alyssa Thomas got booed in her own building. So that was not a road crowd turning on the home team but a home crowd choosing the visitor over their own player. With 10 seconds left, the game still was not decided as Phoenix and Indiana had been trading punches all fourth quarter, and now it came down to one final possession that would either seal the win or hand Phoenix new life, and Kelsey Mitchell's night built slow and steady before it turned into the moment everyone remembers because she had been scoring all game, picking her spots, hitting pull-up jumpers.
Sophie Cunningham at the line, shooting 2.
And finishing at the rim whenever Phoenix left even a sliver of space open, and by the time the fourth quarter rolled around, she had already put together the kind of night that wins games on its own, and she was not done yet because with 10.1 seconds on the clock, Mitchell got the ball and attacked the rim like she had already decided this possession belonged to her, driving past her defender, getting to her spot, and laying it in over outstretched arms to put Indiana ahead for good with no hesitation or second guessing, just a direct move to the basket when her team needed someone to make a play with the game hanging in the balance. And her final stat line read 29 points and 8 assists, the best performance either team put up.
And I mean, they just came back with a vengeance, an absolute vengeance, and play after play after play late in the game.
Up all night, which was not just scoring but controlling the game from start to finish, setting up teammates all night and then taking over herself when the clock ran down, and Indiana needed one more bucket, but Lexie Hull had her own answer to give after getting elbowed in the face earlier in the game, as she did not disappear or play scared but played through it and finished with 10 points on the night, and that was the response to getting hit in the face by Alyssa Thomas and laughed at. While she was still down, as Hull picked herself up, got back on the floor, and kept competing like nothing happened, which said more about her than any highlight could. Michaela Thompson came up with the block that ended Phoenix's last real chance to steal this game back, as Phoenix pushed the ball down the stretch looking for a shot to answer Mitchell's layup, and Thompson met it at the rim and sent it away clean, and that was the possession where Phoenix's hope ran out, coming from a roll player doing exactly the job her team needed in that exact second, and role players closing out a game like this was not an accident or luck either, with Harris scoring in the fourth quarter, Hull playing through pain, and Thompson coming up with a defensive stop when it mattered most, and that was depth showing up when the roster's best player was sitting in street clothes, because teams that only have one player who can make plays do not win these kinds of games, and Indiana just proved they have more than one.
Lets it fly, and then look at this block by Timpson at the rim, sends it back, keeps it in play off the glass.
Copper gets by Mitchell. Oh, Timpson just sent her back at the rim, pinned it on the backboard.
Phoenix did not go quietly either, with Thomas finishing with 22 points, still productive on the scoreboard even after getting outworked by Boston most of the night, and Kahleah Copper matching her with 22 points of her own, with both of them keeping Phoenix in the game until the final possession by scoring in bunches and giving their team a real chance to win it. But scoring 22 each was not enough when the other team had an answer for every single run Phoenix put together, and the final buzzer sounded with Indiana ahead and the scoreline reading like a statement rather than a lucky escape, because this was not Indiana hanging on and hoping Phoenix missed a couple shots down the stretch. This was Indiana answering every punch, taking the lead for good with 10 seconds left, and closing the door with a defensive stop that Phoenix never saw coming, and Caitlin Clark watched every second of it from the bench in street clothes, about to walk back into a locker room. Room full of players who just proved they do not need her to win, as Thomas wanted to send a message by targeting Hull, but the Fever sent one right back, built on Boston in the post, Cunningham at the line, Mitchell's heroics, and Hull playing through pain instead of backing down, so Indiana just beat a full Phoenix roster without their best scorer on the floor, and once Clark steps back into this lineup, every team in this league should be worried, so stick around to see how Indiana carries this into the rest of the season, and let us know what the WNBA should do to Alyssa Thomas by dropping a comment below, and do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications as we bring you all the action and top stories, and click the video on the screen and we will see you in the next one.